Renegade Immortal, Chapter 601, One Drop. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. The Celestial Ascension Fruit isn't a rare fruit. Although it isn't common, it is even possible to get it on planet Suzaku. These fruits are only the size of a baby's fist, and they are completely purple and give off a strange fragrance. If a person were to eat one, they would become excited and feel extreme pleasures. This is why this fruit is called Celestial Ascension Fruit. If a mortal were to eat one, they would become addicted, but it wouldn't affect a cultivator much. However, there are cultivators who enjoy eating the fruit and losing themselves in that intoxicating feeling. In the mortal world, only the rich and powerful can get celestial ascension fruits from cultivators after paying a hefty price. Then they can immerse themselves in the intoxicating feeling like they have become celestials themselves. Wang Lin looked at the plane. It looked like this plane was endless, and it was filled with celestial ascension fruits. But Wang Lin wasn't interested in the fruits. At this moment, the armored bone arm broke through the restrictions and arrived here. Thick demonic spiritual energy was released from the armored bone arm and surrounded the area. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he stared at the arm. Then his right hand touched his bag of holding, and the celestial sword appeared in his hand. Shu Li Kuo quickly let out a roar. Ever since his rebellion failed, he had always been very careful. Now that Wang Lin had taken out the celestial sword, he decided that he would definitely achieve some merit today. He has followed Wang Lin for many years and was very familiar with Wang Lin's personality. He thought to himself, as long as I achieve some merit, this fiend won't think about what happened back then. Sword hymns came from the celestial sword. A sword was a proud weapon above all other weapons. However, at this moment, the sword hymn that came out contained a dirty meaning. After the black bone arm appeared, it clawed at Wang Lin once more, and the heavenly demon wind gently blew toward him. Wang Lin was already prepared. His eyes turned cold, and his solder heart appeared. He quickly swung the celestial sword to send out a ray of sword energy, and the celestial sword itself flew out after the sword energy in the form of a sword dragon. Under Shu Li Kuo's control, the celestial sword swept toward the bone arm in an imposing manner and became entangled in a battle with the arm. The bone arm didn't even seem to care about the celestial sword and reached out to grab it. But at the moment the arm touched the celestial sword, it released violent sizzling sounds, like a piece of ice that had just touched hot iron. Shu Li Kuo began to laugh proudly. He was about to break free and get another hit off at the bone arm. However, thick demonic spiritual energy came out of the wrist guard and entered the celestial sword. Shu Li Kuo was startled and wanted to break free, but the bone arm was like a pair of metal pliers that had a tight hold on the sword. Wang Lin coldly looked at everything before him. At the moment that thick demonic spiritual energy was released, Wang Lin raised his right index finger and softly said, "Demonic finger." What was changed this time wasn't his own celestial spiritual energy, but the demonic spiritual energy that was released. Using his Ascendant level cultivation, Wang Lin could transform the forces of the heavens and earth. It was different from the death aura that the death finger gave. This was demonic spiritual energy. At this moment, Wang Lin's right index finger was like a huge vortex as all the demonic spiritual energy rushed toward his finger. Soon, a ray of black light appeared at Wang Lin's fingertip. This black light seemed to be able to devour light, and at the moment it appeared, it was surrounded by thick demonic spiritual energy. With a flick of his finger, the black light charged toward the bone arm. Its speed was too quick, so it landed on the bone arm in an instant. After a series of cracking sounds, the bone arm shattered, and Shu Li Kuo quickly moved the sword away. At the moment the bone arm shattered, a symbol flashed on the wrist guard. Then the shattered black bone quickly spread, forming a black halo that was 10,000 feet wide. Demonic spiritual energy filled this 10,000-foot area, creating a prison. Then more symbols appeared on the wrist guard and began to emit the sound of a bell ringing. This sound came from the wrist guard, but it seemed to come from the heavens as it echoed within this 10,000-foot area. All of this happened in an instant. This sound was 100 times stronger than the heavenly demon wind, so the clarity Wang Lin managed to maintain with his solder heart immediately showed signs of weakening. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, and with one step he arrived in the air. His hand formed a seal before turning into a palm that slammed down on the wrist guard. At the moment his palm touched the wrist guard, a monstrous demonic flame burst out from the wrist guard, forming a fist-sized shadow. This shadow had a single horn and was completely black. After it appeared, it revealed a smile of contempt, before suddenly opening its mouth and laughing loudly. Wang Lin's origin soul shook, but his eyes became even colder. His right hand did not stop. He pressed down on the wrist guard. At the moment, the black shadow on the wrist guard let out another crazy laugh. This time, the sound was several times more intense than before. This intense sound wave created sonic booms that echoed between Wang Lin and the wrist guard. The sonic booms were secondary. The real attack was aimed at his origin soul. Thanks to this demonic laugh, Wang Lin's origin soul began to leave his body once more, and his solder heart was about to collapse. The shadow on the wrist guard revealed a dark grin and laughed like crazy once more. Wang Lin bit the tip of his tongue. Rather than retreating, he charged forward and grabbed the wrist guard. Then the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged into the wrist guard like crazy. At the moment his celestial spiritual energy entered the wrist guard, the demonic laugh disappeared. However, the black shadow also disappeared and entered Wang Lin's body through his right hand, and it turned into waves of demonic spiritual energy that charged at his origin soul. The demonic dance of confusion. Wang Lin's right hand clutched the wrist guard, then quickly fell from the sky. Then he sat down in the lotus position on the ground. The demonic spiritual energy moved through his meridians and created bursts of illusions that directly shook his origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a ghostly light as he looked at all the Celestial Ascension Fruits around him. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and all the Celestial Ascension Fruits within 10,000 feet flew off the branches and into the sky. There was no less than 10,000 of these fruits. It's as if a small portion of the sky was covered by these purple fruits. At this moment, the demonic spiritual energy inside him was luring his origin soul to fly out of his body. Wang Lin's face was gloomy as he closed his hand. Suddenly, all the fruits in the sky shattered and their juices were extracted. Then the juices were all collected before they were condensed, and condensed again. In the blink of an eye, the juice of more than 10,000 Celestial Ascension Fruits was condensed into one drop, a drop of blood-red liquid. Looking at this drop of blood-red liquid, Wang Lin didn't hesitate to grab it and throw it into his mouth. At the moment the liquid entered his mouth, Wang Lin's entire body shook. The mysterious feeling of the Celestial Ascension Fruit increased countless-fold and exploded inside Wang Lin's mind with a thunderous roar. Under this powerful stimulation, Wang Lin's mind was at its peak level of excitement. He suppressed his excitement and used it as power for his body. At this moment, his origin soul, which was about to be lured out by the demonic spiritual energy, suddenly stopped. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot, and the veins on his head were bulging as if he was enduring great pain. Scram! Wang Lin let out a low roar. This sound was like a thunderous roar that echoed across the land. Then a black shadow was forced out of his body through his right hand. However, this black shadow was extremely stubborn. When it was half forced out, it began to laugh and struggled to re-enter Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's expression was fierce as the mysterious feeling from the Celestial Ascension Fruit filled his body. This gave his body unimaginable power, and while he had to endure pain, it also gave him intense pleasure. The pain and pleasure were both suppressed by him. The suppression of these two feelings created an unimaginable explosive force. Scram! Wang Lin suddenly raised his head and his hand, then a force exploded from his body and the black shadow was forced out of his body. At the moment the black shadow was pushed out and sent flying into the air, Wang Lin charged toward it with bloodshot eyes. He grabbed the black shadow, and then the celestial spiritual energy from his body surged out like crazy and entered the black shadow. The black shadow let out a miserable groan as it collapsed. It turned into fine, silky strings as it escaped from Wang Lin's hand, before reforming itself 100 feet from Wang Lin and giving him a vicious stare. But Wang Lin completely ignored that gaze. At this moment, the feeling from the fruits was about to explode. Still under the fruit's influence, Wang Lin took a step forward and without any hesitation pointed his pinky at the black shadow. Underworld finger. He used his Ascendant level cultivation to bring out the Underworld finger. This finger pointed to the Underworld to activate the domain inside Wang Lin's origin soul. This finger contained life and death. It contained all of Wang Lin's will. This finger reached its peak under the effect of the Celestial Ascension Fruit. This finger caused the world to change colors. This Underworld finger was a spell infinitely close to a low-quality celestial spell, so a large portion of the sky began to collapse and shatter. This one finger was life and death. The shadow with a horn revealed a look of disbelief. It let out a scream and wanted to flee, but the finger arrived. The black shadow's body paused and immediately collapsed. An angry roar came from the armor inside the black tower located in the ancient battleground. Then a powerful will rushed out and merged with the void. After withdrawing that finger, the restriction created by the demonic spiritual energy within 10,000 feet disappeared. Wang Lin's right hand was still gripping the wrist guard. Crazy amounts of demonic spiritual energy came from the wrist guard as it tried to break free, but Wang Lin's hand held it tight. He spat out a mouthful of origin energy and it fell on the wrist guard. Then the origin energy turned into a spider web and sealed the wrist guard. Then he casually put the wrist guard inside his bag of holding. Wang Lin's eyes were still red as the effect of the Celestial Ascension Fruit wasn't over. An intense battle intent had been born inside Wang Lin's body. This battle intent was extremely powerful, and it was impossible to suppress. Wang Lin waved his right hand, and the celestial sword flew back and landed in his hand. At this moment, Shu Li Guo didn't dare speak, as the current Wang Lin made his heart tremble.